Marriage is a mixed bag of things. There's a lot that comes with it, and sometimes um, it's not just the physical stuff. I mean, we've spoken about sex, we've spoken about money, but what about when the challenges are things that you cannot touch, taste,
See.
smell, or directly see?
Yeah.
That's what we want to talk about today. Stay with us.
Welcome to Love and Everything in Between podcast. And today we have with us a very dear friend of ours who has helped us in our journey in our marriage.
Yes.
And I'm so happy she's here to share her wealth of knowledge on this particular topic.
We have Dr. Gbonjubola Abiri with us. A lot
Nice
of you
to have
probably
you.
know her from Instagram.
Yes. I remember the first day he showed me her video.
I said we need to see someone.
I
We need to
said,
see someone. It's like, okay, who are we going to
To
see?
see.
And I showed her the video. She was
I
like,
said, no.
no.
Are you sure this person
This
is
person
a doctor?
this
She
person's
knows.
not a
Are you
doctor.
sure
This
she knows
person's
what-
not serious. I said, calm down. First of all, let me,
Give
you
me
know,
her
credentials and
credentials.
everything, but
Yes.
she's kosher. And to be honest, I would say that you're a large part of why we're still together
Yes.
today, sitting here doing another season.
And for that, we're very,
We're really
very grateful.
And it's awesome to have you here.
To
Well, thank you very much for having me. And of course, you're most welcome. It's very humbling and very honoring to hear that you feel that I am a huge part of your journey.
yes.
And that this cohesion that we still see and that everyone still celebrates is, I'm a part of it.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you for making me a part of your journey.
Thank you very much. I think where I want to start from would be our own experience. So I noticed couple of years towards the end of each year, Rogba would go into some form of funk, and what's wrong, he was just like, I don't know, I just don't feel accomplished, fulfilled, the year has gone by, I don't think I did anything substantial. And I would always be like, did I do anything wrong, or was it me? And he'd be like, no, not really. He can't pin a finger to it. And then I think that had happened like 2 years consecutively. And I was like, oh, we've come again. It's the end of the year. You want to start this thing. We started pegging it as it might be possible depression. And we're like, no, you can't be depressed now. Like, life is not that bad.
And I didn't even feel depressed.
He didn't feel depressed,
Right.
So we're like, okay, what could be the problem? So I think at some point you started having
So I'd been having
dizzy spells.
They were not quite dizzy spells, but I used to have this like weird spells where I'd have pressure
Yeah.
on the inside of my head, and I'd feel like I was about to pass
Pass
out
out.
and all that. And I remember thinking, because I went to the hospital, they did all
All
the tests.
sorts of tests, and they're like,
everything.
okay.
And at a point, they said you need to see a neurologist. And I was like, okay, is it cancer? My brain, do I have a tumor? What's going on? And they did an
same day,
MRI, everything.
They didn't say
They said,
anything.
fine.
We
And they
saw
said,
the neurologist, and he now said,
go and
see a therapist.
He said go and see a
A
psychiatrist.
psychiatrist. And I was like,
Bro, I'm not mad.
can't be that bad,
Yo, like I'm normal. But I saw someone, and I started dealing with. I discovered that I had anxiety,
Anxiety.
and it was induced a lot by lack of sleep, stress.
And then another trigger point was actually me.
Yes, we had apparently my marriage and my wife were a major trigger point for me, and I had no idea, And so I dealt with that with the psychiatrist, and then I came back to her, and I was trying to say, okay, so
From my therapy sessions.
we need to, because it seems like and then she was dealing with some other stuff,
Yeah.
and then at a point I remember that it just we kept kicking the ball down the road, and then we spoke to a couple of people, but nobody really
was kind of addressing
they'll
what
just say,
the challenge was.
you guys are friends now.
You're fine.
You'll be fine. And
It
these
happens.
were therapists, so I was
You're
like,
like, okay.
we're fine. And then it would happen, and then it just got to this point where it was like I was hitting my head against a wall. She was hitting her head against the wall. Nobody seemed to understand what anybody was saying, and it was just constant frustration, and it got really bad.
Really bad.
It was as bad as it's not this deep. If you're not doing it,
Let's just go.
be going. I beg. Like everybody will be fine. The children they won't be the first.
Yeah.
But there was always that thing at the back of my mind that this is my person. This is my person.
We need to find
one
a way to
last
make it work.
ditch, one last effort, and I reached out.
Yeah.
And then you said, "Oh, you know what? Come in, book a session," and we did that.
I remember. I want to even ask, what did you think the first day? Because guys, I'm very, very stubborn.
Yes.
I remember.
Because the first that question. Okay, so guys, why do you think you're ahead? I said, "Oh, we're going through a lot, and I'm really trying to see if we can just make it through." And they said, "I think Rogba is done, and he's just looking for an excuse and wants to get out."
He was a professional to tell me it's done. So please, can you just tell me so I can go? How did you take that? How did you take that response? Because now I can ask you.
Well, so welcome to my couch. And I think I actually enjoy, sitting down, listening, taking the verbal and non-verbal cues that go on between both of you.
Yeah.
Let me commend both of you for being fearlessly open and honest and vulnerable enough to, bring your lives, not just to the therapy room, but to the screen. It helps to tell your story because you never know how many people will get strength, support for their own journeys as well. I don't do a lot of marital therapy.
Yes.
And I would also usually insist that I also have a male partner in the room so that both
there's a balance. Yes.
I remember that.
Yeah.
I remember
yes,
that.
he was right. Yes, there was a male
yeah,
guy present.
So quite a number of times if you decide to do it with just one therapist, people are like, she's not listening to me. She reminds me of my mother.
Yes.
So
or she's taking my side.
She's taking my side, exactly. So there's this transference, counter-transference, which are relationship dynamics that happen in the place of therapy. But when you did come in, so usually, it's the woman that has a barrage of complaints. If you say, write this about your partner, the woman will probably have 20 when the man only has 2. And so imagine that he came in and...
He was the one that had all the complaints.
Yeah, he had all the complaints. And then you were like, well, we're here.
I want to see where it's going to take us here. What's going to happen? Yeah.
However, I think it's important to ride on the waves of the fact that he was already in therapy. And so he had a community of people helping him get the support that he wanted. Exactly. And so even though that may have stemmed from the fact that, feeling down,
related,
low mood and all of that, the neurologist was kind enough to pick, because quite a number of people would also have missed it.
Yes.
And so you were still fresh, new to everything in your own ocean. And most likely you were feeling like, well, you brought me here. You suggested this person, even though I eventually decided to go with this person. So is this against me? And so I think that what I saw on that day, to be honest, was you feeling like the world was against you.
And I was by myself.
Yeah, you were by yourself, and that we had set you up.
Yes.
But I'm hopeful that, at the end of that session, part of what you were able to achieve was understand that everyone
had the same goal.
We're on the same level playing field, and we had an agenda that we honestly hoped that we would help both of you achieve.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So now, now that that's already been aired, in marriages, now I know you guys get to see all sorts. And I'm sure it's never as easy as maybe ours was easy, that we were willing to.
It was easy. Well, let's be going.
Well, it wasn't that they separated us and said, you go and talk in that room. It didn't get that bad. We're still in the same room. I don't want to peg it, because every marriage has their own unique peculiar situations. But I want to presume that the highest would be underlying mental depression, where you don't know, because you don't see it. And being that mental illnesses or mental situations is not something we're very comfortable talking about in Africa. We just feel like it's a white man's disease. We're trying to take on something that doesn't come naturally to us. Like, yes, you will be stressed, yes, you will have life curveballs, but it wouldn't be mental. Like, so am I
Yeah. Well, I think we should even start with, how does one even
identify
that there is a mental health problem? Because you're in a marriage and you just assume. So for me, it was just, I'm stressed. So when they say stress is a trigger, what do you want me to do? I live in Lagos. I'm married.
Lagos is stressful.
But I didn't even understand that it was deeper than just stress. So how does one identify it, one in themselves, and then even in their partner? How do you look at your partner and say, okay, I see that there's something wrong?
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that a good place to start that conversation will be to help us understand in the most basic terms, what mental health is.
Yes. Okay.
And mental health pretty much has to do with how we think, what we believe, how we feel, and our behavior at the end of the day. So usually professionals will say it's a state in which the brain or the mind is able to successfully perform the functions of thought, of emotion, of perception, and of, beliefs and behavior. And so at the end of the day, an individual is adjudged to be mentally well or mentally healthy if they're able to do 4 things. 1, they're able to cope with the normal stresses of life. Stress is a normal part of life.
Yes.
Good. Number 2, this individual is able to contribute his quota or her quota to the environment that they live in. So you live in this environment, they say pay dues. You live in this kind of environment, they say do this, and you're able to do it. Number 3, then the individual is able to cope with the adversity of life. Life will come with curveballs.
Yes,
it will come with,
all manners of issues.
And you need to be able to, stand up to it. And at the end of the day, this individual has a good quality of life. A good quality of life such that they enjoy their own lives. They enjoy the interactions that they have either with friends or with family or with loved ones. They're able to contribute their quota again to the environment they live in. So I work and I do my work well. I go to church and I go to mosque, whatever community. And of course, at the end of the day, in the environment that they live, they're also able to, give their best. And so you may not be able to, with all of these definitions, even be able to successfully tell whether an individual is mentally well. However, there are also some things that we look at as professionals and that you can also look at as, lay people, everyday people. There's something we call the mental status examination. And so you start with something like behavior. How is this individual's behavior? Is it, the usual that I know? Is it the usual that I'm used to? Is there a change? And changes do happen.
Yes.
So, of course,
we evolve.
When I walked in here, you said I looked angry.
Yeah.
I've been in traffic and I'm thinking this doesn't have to. So I can get angry every now and then, but when it's persistent, the symptoms are increasing in intensity, frequency, and causing distress, not just to me, but to other people around. We also need to look out. You have to also look at appearance. So this, my, dapper looking husband, always looking sharp, hair is cut, but all of a sudden he's keeping his hair for, days on end. He's not combing it, he's not brushing, he's not taking a bath, he's not coming out of the house. Appearance too matters. Then of course you go to the mood. What is your mood like?
Yeah.
Is it, again, we all have ups and downs. I always say that towards the end of the month, if you're not seeing me smile, it's most likely because I haven't heard bagang. The mood will, levitate and I feel good. But do you have someone who is crying, excessively cranky, irritable, or excessively happy, like you find in state of mania where they're, out and about, giving things out, even to the detriment of the family, giving money out, So after you look at that, you also look at the affect. How are you? And then you look, oh, I'm so well. And in the next minute, you start crying. Is what they say congruent with how
they feel and look?
Yeah. Then, of course, you then go to perception, perceiving in the 5 senses. Are you having abnormalities perceiving? So sometimes, would you say things like,
did you hear that?
Exactly. Did you hear that? Did you see that?
You can't hear it.
You can't hear it. They're talking about me. They're saying,
I can smell
something, or I can feel something. The one that we usually hear that we're quite worried about is, I can feel someone having sexual intercourse with me. And, those are high levels of, mental illnesses. So any of the sensory modalities, then the thought pattern. What is your thought like? I sit with you and I'm like, what's going on? And you go, nothing. Or you notice that the individual's conversation style has changed or dwindled from what you usually
used to.
You're also quite worried. Then the content of thought. How are you? I am tired and I want it all to end. Paranoia. This person is against me. They want to destroy me.
They're talking about me.
So you also want to see those things. Then, of course, you want to see things like orientation. You wake up this morning and you're like, oh, it's 1 a.m. And you're like, is everything okay? Memory problems. Does the person have an idea? I remember seeing an old couple. The woman was able to tell me her name, but when I asked for her age, she smiled and looked at her husband. And she was like, how old am I?
Oh, wow.
Dementia was already setting
in.
Then, of course, you also want to get to a point where you understand, does this individual even notice these changes? And so to be able to come to a point where people notice or know, do they even know themselves? Who am I? What makes me up? What makes me feel a certain way? In what situations or circumstances do I feel, does this person energize me? Does this person drain me? Does this process or this place make me feel a certain way? You see, self-awareness is the biggest part. Self-awareness, self-regulation. If you don't have that by yourself, you can't even help the other person. You can't even see the other person. Then, of course, you need to be interested in the other person to even care
notice
enough. Then, of course, you also need to not be too overwhelmed, because if you're overwhelmed by your own life, you're a career woman, you're a mother, you're everything to everybody else, and you don't see your partner, then you really can't help them. So you need to tend to your own self, be able to, ensure that you are in a good place before you can even say that I want to start noticing differences. Then, of course, you must know
what you're looking out for.
What you're looking out for. Who is this person on a normal? Some people have marriages where, I'm 2 weeks in, 2 weeks, and that 2 weeks where you're back, you can't, there's even not enough time because the person is trying to do everything. So
just
you must
make
really,
you happy in
just
that
make
period.
you happy. So you must really know this person. Know them, but before you know them, you
know
must
yourself.
Okay. So there's one question that popped into my head. When people hear mental health, a mental health challenge or a mental health illness, they just automatically assume it's depression.
Walking on the street naked.
Yeah, or being bipolar. Is it really only that extreme? Because for me, I would never have said I have any mental health issue. You get, but anxiety, and I just attributed not sleeping to my personality. I'm constantly
Not sleeping.
thinking. My mind is constantly on, but it was, later I found out that, no, it's actually because you're anxious. You're constantly anxious. That's why you're not switching off, And so how I don't know. I just want you to.
Okay, so pretty much what connotes a mental health condition, an illness, a disorder.
Yes.
So usually when we talk about mental health and illness, we don't talk about them rather in absolutes.
Okay.
You talk about them about being a continuum.
Okay.
So imagine that you have mental illness here and you have mental health here, and there's a line. And so at every point in time, every one of us
will slide
on that line.
Yeah. And so life's difficulties, life's challenges would either tilt you in
this way
or the other way. I remember, a patient sat across me one day, and I looked at her and I said, today it's you. Tomorrow, who knows? If situations or challenges, come at me so fast, I lose everything that I'm supposed to, I've learned to cope with. I could actually be sitting in that seat that you're sitting. And so it's important to look at what are some of the, things that can happen to our mental health that will struggle.
Yeah.
Yes.
Change. So for instance, an individual loses a job. An individual loses an opportunity for a promotion. An individual is fired from their job. Divorce. The death of a loved one. The loss of something that you hold very dear to your heart. Sometimes it's even the, appearance of something that you've been hoping and waiting for all of this while. I don't know if you caught that story about that man who, he and his wife had 2 children, and he said, just one more, and then they had 4 children.
Yes.
Yeah.
That's it.
I actually know someone that happened to.
Just now had twins, and the next thing, we moved from a family of 4 to 6.
So
and I'm like,
significant life
changes, events
that threaten an individual's safety, security, sanity, and stability. It may be big things, it may be small things. But, all of these things also depend on who the individual is, what they've gone through in their past times, how they have learned to be resilient through the storms of life. Yeah. Because, these days, and we must be honest about this conversation, this generation that is, bursting forth, a lot of them have problems with being resilient.
Yes.
They want things solved right now.
Yeah.
Easy.
No delayed gratification. It can't wait. And so the small shaggy that, everyone else is able to withstand, they probably can't withstand
it.
So sometimes it's not until you see a disheveled man or woman on the street to know that their clothes. Sometimes it's the little things. It's the emotions. It's the mood. Sometimes it's the sleep. And quite a number of times what we found is that quite a number of mental health conditions present with
sleep.
Either not sleeping well or
oversleeping much. Yeah.
Either not eating well. So those are biological functions: food, sex, sleep, and mood. And so you may either find that the individual has just a little or too much. So again, it's not until the really big things come. It may just be, my mood is unduly irritable. I find that I'm crying and it's consistent. Again, that consistency also comes with an increase in intensity, frequency, and causes distress, not just to you as an individual, but to everyone else. So people see it, people say it, people observe it. They may not know how best to help and support you on your journey. But you see, until you are able to identify that this was me, what is going on with me. There are days, I wake up and I don't feel like a 10 over 10. And there are many days you'd feel like you're not a 10 over 10, but you must be able to accurately assess yourself. So which goes back to self-awareness. How do I feel? What is going on with me?
So I think another norm that needs to be broken is when people need to seek help. Because
this one,
it's a huge challenge. You talk to a couple of people because as a married couple and you have married friends, and maybe sometimes you guys get into deep conversations where sometimes you just feel like, okay, I just want to rant to someone, and you feel like you're in a safe space and you're ranting to a friend, and you now say, okay, have you thought of therapy?
Because it gets to a point where you're no longer ranting. You have now shifted into something a bit more profound, and we can identify that there are fundamental problems here, and you're not addressing them. You just think, I'm just going to rant
about it. And then some people, once they rant, they kind of moved on, they feel better, and they think they can now go back and face it, and then it happens again. So, but when you now mention, have you guys thought about therapy? You hear the men saying, why should I go and talk to somebody?
As the therapist solve their own problem, they don't want to solve my own problem.
And then
why am I talking
to? Why do I want to talk to a stranger? So I think, in as much as I might have had the guard of, I felt like I was alone. I know there's something about when you talk to total strangers that don't judge you. You understand? Because the person doesn't know you from Adam. Now, to talk to a stranger that is a professional in that field, I had a bit of relief in a sense, like, okay, I can say what I want to say now, finally, and if they don't have to like me, you understand, but I can finally probably get it off my chest. So why do we have that a lot? Like there's like a increasing percentage of resistance of seeking help.
Also, it's like you said, it's the norm. But we also need to start breaking that norm.
Yes.
Because a lot of relationships today may have been saved.
Yeah.
If they actually did agree to speak to someone.
Yeah.
So again, it's not a problem that is peculiar to us in this part of the world.
Okay.
Even abroad, people are hesitant about seeking help. Yes, they are.
Because they paint this picture of go to a couch. I have okay. My bad.
Yeah, so those things happen in the movies where people are able to, sit down
on the couch and lie down and talk.
Yeah. Sometimes you see
because that's the image I always had in my head. I'll come, but when you didn't let me lie down, I was like, I don't like this one. I'm sitting down seriously.
Serious issues here. So to be honest, I also think that it's a generational thing. It's a cultural thing. It's a religious, social, cultural, and religious, undertones to it. The social environment is one that says, you have problems, suck it in.
Suck it up.
Talk about it. Have you seen your pastor? What did your pastor say? They say, woman, you have the problem, be submissive, do this, listen to the man. So social, cultural, religious. If you, for instance, tell your parents, they'll tell you, you're not the only one who has problems. People have problems. Me too. I sat in your father's house for God knows how many years, and I didn't leave because of, because
of you guys.
And so, take it in somehow. So sometimes it's also because of ignorance. Some people would never believe, and it's important that, the spotlight is towards the men. Men almost always feel like, I've got this, I will solve it. If I told you my problem, what would you do? But you see, I'm beginning to find that quite a number of men will open up to you if you are patient, if you are persistent, and if you are genuinely interested in what is going on, including if you don't even have any money to give them. So men will open up because they see someone who sees through their issues and who sees them and validates them
and just wants to help.
And just wants to help. So a lot of times it's ignorance. Sometimes it's discrimination or stigma.
I'm going to talk to somebody.
I'm going to talk to a therapist. You know how it will sound, you know how it would look and all of that. And then I think that people just don't see it as a resource that can help or support them on their journey. They would rather turn to things like alcohol. They would rather turn to things like, aggression. They would rather, look for other things, maybe other women or other men, because not only women that, they'll either look for other women or other men, party, turn to drugs, substances.
Just something to distract from the issue.
Just to cope. Again, they're coping. But unfortunately, they're not coping
the right way,
in a healthy manner or in a way that would help them, solve the issue. So the reasons differ from person to person. They differ from home to home. Some people also think, I'm giving my best, Joe. I'm tired. And some people just need an excuse to take a walk, let's be honest, without, being seen to do the work. It's a lot of work. When you come in to speak to the therapist, that's just like a fraction of the work. Because
it's not like the therapist just going to wait.
The one that needs to be,
ta-da.
you have to, there's a process.
There's actually a process. You would come in, take assignments, go back and look at this person that you're angry at, to do things that therapists will actually ask you to do. Sometimes they may seem crazy, they may seem funny, they may seem, like, is this person even listening to me? Did they even listen to what I said when I came in?
You hear what I said? You didn't hear what he did.
I think I said it to the guy when I came back for my solo one. And like, in my head, I was like, did this guy even hear anything I said? I said that. What you're telling me, he said, yes, madam, I hear you. But could it be that your manner of communication? I'm like,
He's not listening to me.
He's not listening.
He's not listening. Because he's the man.
So I think that's the beautiful thing about therapy. It affords you the opportunity to have different perspectives. Because you are just thinking like
one way, yes.
And then therapy says, what if we did it like this? What if we did it like this? And I think that it's also a notion that we need to put out there. The therapist doesn't tell you what to do.
Yeah.
The therapist sees you with what you brought in. The therapist is there to handhold you through the journey and help you understand that, well, there's still something to be salvaged. Usually people who are already considering divorce or in divorce, quite a number of times it's a contraindication to even come to therapy because you've made up your mind. You already signed your dotted lines. But there have been people who had, been on the journey to divorce and actually came to therapy.
And they were able to work it out.
Is it communication issues? Is it financial issues? Is it... As long as the individual parties are willing to put in the work, it's more than likely to be salvaged.
So it's interesting that you touched on religion as one of the things that mitigate against therapy. And I find that in my experience, talking to people, even being married, having gone through marital counseling, before we even got married, it doesn't seem like religious organizations broadly are doing enough to equip young couples for the realities of marriage. And I say this because I have been on the end of being someone who attended marital counseling. I've been on the end of someone who has facilitated marriage counseling, and it just seems like it's an extension of the religious organization's beliefs. That's it. So, like you said, oh, you're a woman, you submit, that's it, boom. But there's no one size fits all. That every individual is different. Every union is different. Things that work for my marriage may not work for someone else's marriage. So it just feels like there's just this blanket way
they just tell them what to do.
And I feel like it's important for you to go into marital counseling understanding, first of all, who you are, who the other person is, and then how you are going to function as a unit afterwards. So what's your take, and how do you think that can be
helped?
Yeah, fixed.
Well, so I honestly would, first thing I would say is many times you can't give what you don't have. Your knowledge is limited by, the exposure that you have. And so if you haven't broadened your mind to the fact that, well, man is a spirit, he lives in a soul, he lives in a body, he has a soul, he's a tripartite being. There are issues with wellness, and wellness can be, on 8 pillars: physical, emotional, social, all of those things. You need to look beyond that individual. I mean, I'm a therapist and I can just be speaking and spewing science here. But we've looked at social, we've looked at cultural, we've looked at religious. And so I think that until people know better, they can do better. When people know better, that's a quote, by the way. I can't remember her name now. Maya Angelou. And that, so when people know better, they're likely to do better. Beyond the marital counseling, like you've rightly said, it will not be a bad idea to have, a personality assessment.
Yes, which I've been advocating after I did mine. I was like, this thing is actually gold.
A personality assessment, an assessment with a therapist. The goal, again, unfortunately, like you felt set up at that time, is not to roughen you up or, break everything that we've cast in stone. But, it gives you a better viewpoint to say that this is what I'm getting into, and I'm getting into it with my eyes wide open. I have, a younger brother who said to me that before he eventually got married, there were girls that he dated, and he saw the issues without being a therapist. And he told them, you need to see a therapist. but that they just killed it.
Yeah,
because
because it's the norm.
I know you don't want to marry me. Just say
Just say you don't want to marry me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so they moved on to. But you see, whatever the issues, and to be honest, we all carry trauma.
Yes.
I love that you will say yes.
Yes.
We had a lot of trauma. Yeah.
We all carry trauma. Our trauma will come in different shapes, sizes, and form. And while a lot of trauma also shows up as adults. The friends that we make, the associations that we have, the things that we say, how we raise our children, which is why you see some couples, they say, daddy said I should do this, but mommy said I should do this. And the child is clearly confused. There's a schism in how things go. And so until those traumatic experiences are looked at very critically, assessed, and the individual is helped, all that you may see, maybe, red flags. People will see them as red flags, but many of those red flags are trauma responses. Someone ghosts you, it's a trauma response. Someone is aggressive, you just said something and they're throwing things, it's a trauma response. Someone doesn't have boundaries, is just wants to do everything even when you treat them badly, it's a trauma response. And so until people heal, and yes, spirituality and religion have their role to play. But I think that when people open up their minds more and say that, perhaps see a counselor, see a clinical psychologist and a therapist. Someone called me and she said, she's looking for a psychologist for her child. And I said, I'm actually a psychiatrist first. I'm the psychologist. I said, our case is not that serious. I'm like, for you to have called.
It is.
Means that you identify that you need
There's a problem.
So I think that religious organizations should open their doors to have, mental health professionals come in.
And just
work alongside
them. Because everybody's trying to achieve the same goal.
At the end of the day, to have, this happy, fulfilled, and satisfied home. Which is why, quite a number of times you have homes that 1 month, and we hear the stories, into the marriage, people are breaking up. 2 months, 6 months, the guy is cheating, he can sleep with anything. Trauma. And that trauma is showing up.
Yeah.
So I think that until we all work in hand, we may not be able to successfully help couples. And a lot of couples definitely need to be helped. It's not just butterflies in the tummy and all of that. Marriage is hard work.
It's work. Thank you very much, doctor. We're still gonna have you because we have a lot more to talk about. Okay, so guys, this is the end of part 1 of the episode. We've covered quite a lot. Please leave your comments if you have anything to share. Please feel free to send it to us. Let us know. Send it to us via email. You can reach us on social media, or you can leave your comments in the comment section. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. We're going off to the game now, and we will see you in part 2 of this same episode with Dr. Gbonjubola Abiri.
The constancy with which we do those things for children. If a child is, hungry, you feed, tending to them as at when due. As compared with a child that is left to cry for hours, left in diaper for hours. If you do all of those things, the child is likely to come up with a trusting attitude. However, if there's inconsistency, today it's there, tomorrow it's not there, today it's this person, tomorrow it's this person, then it's the next person who is shouting at the child is likely to grow up being distrustful.
Hi guys, so now we get to that time of the day again, time of the episode, where we have to play the challenge. Now, you and I are going to play this particular game where we have to get to flip the cup. Whoever gets it to stay upright is in control and can make sure that the other person drinks the shot. I mean, just watch, you get the hang of it.
I like to put out a disclaimer that my production manager is mean. No, not a disclaimer. I'm putting it out there that I only picked games that I cannot play.
Wow.
Yes.
After she picked the games that you've been winning. Okay, yeah, so let's go. So can we have the timer?
So one after the other or together?
It's together, I assume.
Together.
Okay. So we just go.
All right, so who's
time?
counting? In 3,
Now landed up right. Imagine.
Why? Does he have to come up? Does he have to come up before I drink it?
Hallelujah. There you go, my darling. Once again,
Do I have to really drink
Rogba
it?
1, Bio 0.
I promise you guys, I will.
Drink, 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 drink. Woo! There.
I will win the next one.
Don't worry, it's like waterfall. Catch you on the other side, guys. See you next time.
We're doing well so far. Don't worry.
Everybody should have done like this.
Sorry.
Because it was it's because your face was now. So I'm talking and I'm like, but why is she looking at me like that? Okay, so we'll take that again.